The endless darkness of space, star systems thousands of light years from humanity's cradle, Earth. What connects them? What governs their trade, their wars, their politics, and even the fate of humanity? The answer is not an emperor, nor a great house. The answer is a monopoly that can bend space itself, see beyond time, and is the very lifeblood of the known universe. The Spacing Guild. Hello, science fiction and Dune universe enthusiasts. Today, we will explore the institution that forms the backbone of Frank Herbert's massive universe, yet always prefers to remain in the shadows, the Spacing Guild. We will take a long journey from their origins to the zenith of their power, from their terrifying secrets to the seeds of their downfall. Fasten your seatbelts, because we are about to board a Heightliner and fold space. Every great power has an origin story, and the Guild's story was forged in the ashes of humanity's bloodiest war, the Butlerian Jihad. For decades, humanity fought a war of survival against the thinking machines and artificial intelligence that sought to enslave them. When this war was won, humanity's most fundamental law was decreed: "Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind." This edict forever banned computers, calculators, and any form of AI capable of plotting a route. This was a great victory for humanity, but it created a colossal problem. How could humanity travel safely between the stars without computers? Making an instantaneous jump from one point to another in the vast emptiness of space, unable to calculate the path of an asteroid, a star, or a black hole in your path, was suicide. The first attempts were disastrous. Thousands of ships, along with their crews, were lost in the void. Humanity had reached the stars, only to be trapped in a galactic prison of its own making. In this moment of desperation, the answer was found on the most remote desert planet in the known universe, Arrakis, a unique substance found only on this planet, Melange, or as it's known, the spice. The spice had incredible effects. It extended life and improved health. But in high doses and with constant exposure, it did much more. It expanded the mind, unlocked the limits of consciousness, and most importantly, it granted the user a limited form of prescience, the ability to see the future. The first to realize this potential were a secretive group who had honed their minds to superhuman levels of mathematical calculation. They realized that the human mind could replace the forbidden machines. These pioneers sealed themselves inside massive tanks filled with highly concentrated spice gas. They were exposed to so much melange over the years that they began to lose their humanity. Their bodies mutated, their limbs atrophied, and they transformed into fish-like, abhuman beings. But their minds expanded, stretching to encompass the void itself. They were no longer human. They were the Guild's first navigators. So, how did these strange beings guide a massive starship? Herein lies the secret to the Guild's genius and its monopoly. Guild Navigators don't steer a ship. They are the sentient computational engines of the massive Heightliner ships, which use Holtzman engines to fold space onto itself. A navigator uses spice-given prescience to scan the infinite paths of the future. The navigator's job is to find the one safe path among billions of dangerous ones. Is there an uncharted planet in the jump path? Will a star explode? Is an asteroid field blocking the way? The navigator sees all these dangerous futures and mentally guides the Heightliner. The ship doesn't travel the path. The navigator creates the path by folding space to that single, safe destination. They provide what computers could not: absolute safety in a chaotic universe. This is why interstellar travel was considered impossible without them. This ability made the Spacing Guild the most powerful institution in the known universe. They were not a dynasty. They had no armies, but they didn't need them, because they controlled the very means of all transportation. The Emperor was nothing. If he couldn't move his armies from one planet to another, the great houses would lose their wealth if they couldn't trade the spice. The Choam Company would collapse if it couldn't conduct intergalactic commerce. The Guild used this power under a veil of absolute neutrality. They never took sides. They served everyone, as long as they paid the fee. They would even transport armies for both sides of a war at the same time. This neutrality made them untouchable. No one could declare war on the Guild, because that meant being marooned on your own planet forever. They were the unseen emperors of the Imperium. Everyone needed them, but they needed only one thing: the spice from Arrakis. To protect its power, the Guild always hid behind a veil of mystery. What navigators looked like, how they worked, these were secrets held for generations. Guild ambassadors were always the public face, but the real power lay in the abhuman beings floating in tanks at the heart of the Heighliners. This secrecy allowed them to achieve a quasi-divine status. They weren't just a transport company, they were, in effect, a religious order. But this monopoly had a terrible price. The navigators were completely addicted to the spice. A life outside their tanks meant death. Seeing infinite possibilities kept their minds on the brink of madness. They had sacrificed their humanity for the most essential service in the Imperium. And this system worked perfectly for thousands of years, until a prophecy emerged on Arrakis that would change the equation of the universe forever. Paul Muad'Dib Atreides. His rise was the first major crack in the Guild's millennia-long reign. Paul not only controlled Arrakis, the source of the spice, but through the spice, he himself unlocked a prescience far greater than any navigator the Guild could no longer bluff. Paul could see every future they saw, and more. And he made that famous threat: he who controls the spice controls the universe. Paul had the power to destroy the spice. This meant the end of the Guild. For the first time, the Guild, which had made everyone kneel, was forced to bend the knee before an emperor. Their monopoly wasn't broken, but for the first time, they were at someone else's mercy. The Guild's true subjugation came with the 3,500-year reign of Paul's son. The God Emperor Leto II Leto took complete control of spice production and distribution. He gave the Guild just enough spice to survive, essentially turning them into his pets. He blinded their prescience and used them as a tool to enforce his golden path. The navigators, masters of the void for thousands of years, were now the servants of a tyrant. After Leto's death during the scattering, the Guild regained some of its power, but nothing was the same. Rival technologies began to appear. The Ixians invented no ships that could travel space without a navigator and could even hide from prescient sight. This was the final nail in the coffin for the Guild's monopoly. They were no longer essential. The story of the Spacing Guild is a lesson in power, dependency, and the evolution of technology. They emerged to fill the void left by forbidden technology, created a monopoly by pushing the limits of the human mind, and shaped the fate of the Imperium for thousands of years. But like all monopolies, theirs was destined to be challenged. The source of their power, the spice, was also their greatest weakness. While they still exist in the Dune universe today, they are no longer those all-powerful emperors in the shadows. They are a glorious relic of the past, a living space-bending proof of what the human mind is capable of, and just how fragile absolute power can be. If you enjoyed this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.